Mortal Kombat 11 is getting an expansion pack, Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. How exciting! Well, it's exciting for some people. In fact, if you've never bought Mortal Kombat 11 in the past, you've got a lot to be excited about. However, if you have previously financially invested in Mortal Kombat 11, the prospect for you is significantly less valuable. And while some fans have accepted that as the cost of supporting any video game with your money, especially a Warner Brothers published one, other fans are a little bit pissed off that the value prospect for them versus a new player is so wildly out of sync. So first of all, what is this Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath expansion? Well, it's got a... there's no other better words, I'll just say it again. There's an expansion to the story. There's more story campaign content. There are 3 playable characters, Fujin, Shiva, and Robocop. And... yeah, alright. There are 3 character skin packs and some exclusive Johnny Cage thanks a million skin, whatever. Basically, it's a whole bunch of typical expansion content. New story, new characters, new skins. Now, the reason for there being a bit of controversy is the price. As I said, the value prospect for an existing customer versus a new one is wildly out of whack. Or at least that's certainly how a large portion of die-hard fans see it. Basically, if you don't have Mortal Kombat 11, you can buy it with Aftermath, all together, all the DLC, all the content, for $60, which is actually a pretty decent deal by all accounts. However, if you already have the game, no matter which expensive version of it, no matter which edition you got, you can buy Aftermath on its own for $40. Now, those who have already invested in Mortal Kombat 11 in the past, those who already own the game, those who already own the existing DLC, feel a little bit put out. They feel like they're being overcharged. If they're early adopters, these are people who have already spent a baseline $60 on Mortal Kombat 11, which is to say nothing of getting the premium edition or the collector's edition, which is only going to make it more expensive. And of course, if they did just get the baseline game but continue to spend money on the DLC, then yeah, whoever is complaining right now has probably spent far in excess of $60 on this game. And from their point of view, all of that money that they spent has now retroactively been devalued because Warner Brothers has come out and said all of that is essentially worth $20. On top of that, fans argue that the cost is just too much. $40 for a bit of a story expansion and some new characters and skins is, in their opinion, not all that worth it. Many aren't arguing for it to be significantly cheaper. Looking in the subreddit and everything, I've gone through comments, and a lot of people argue for $30 instead of $40. But whatever they want, there's no changing the fact that if you didn't buy Mortal Kombat 11 until now, if you've never supported the game financially, you are being offered a superb deal. And if you did support the game in any way financially before now, it could be argued that you flushed a lot of money down the toilet. However, this has for a long time been the cost of early adoption. The thing you buy at launch will reduce in price over time for almost any product. And this is something I've talked about in the game industry for over 10 years. Some of my early video work talked about how the game industry is training people to not value a game at launch, to wait for a massive Steam sale, or to wait for the inevitable Game of the Year edition, which will likely charge $60, the same as the original release, but with significantly more content. Now, 10 years ago, I did say the industry was training us as customers to accept that fact. But clearly we weren't trained very well, because it's been a decade now and people are still buying these games at launch and then getting a nasty surprise a year or so later when they find out they could have waited and gotten everything significantly cheaper. And I say this not to admonish, not to look down on people, not to have a go. I've seen some of the discussion about this whole topic, as I said, and you've got some commenters who are all, well, what did you expect? You should know better. And I don't know, maybe people should know know better, but people don't, and corporations take advantage of that. Warner Brothers is taking advantage of FOMO. This is something else I've talked about in videos, the fear of missing out. There are all sorts of tricks, and pre-orders is another part of it, with pre-order bonuses. There are all manner of psychological tricks that are employed by publishers to get you to spend money as early as possible. I mean, for God's sake, with season passes, they've worked out that you'll pre-order DLC, so they've got no incentive to stop. But this is one of those weirdly successful paradoxes of the game industry. They have demonstrated time and time again that it's straight up bad value to adopt a game at launch, depending on the publisher, of course. Warner Brothers is a prime example of a publisher whose games probably shouldn't be supported at launch if you do value your money long term. But there are companies that, by virtue of their very existence, reiterate the point that spending money now is something you may regret later, and yet it's worked out okay for them. They've been able to publicly reiterate the point that video games become significantly less valuable over time, and not just a long time, a short amount of time, but they still clean up at launch. Such is the strength of FOMO, I guess. I think this comment from one of the many Mortal Kombat subreddit threads on the discussion says it best. Yeah, yet another example, never to pre-order a product. I'll learn this lesson one day, lol. And that's the thing, isn't it? The lesson has been taught over and over again for more than 10 years. And there are people out there who know that lesson, who have been taught that lesson, and not learned. And they know they haven't learned. Lol. Now look, I'm not as harsh as someone like Total Biscuit was when it comes to pre-orders. If you want to pre-order something, go ahead and pre-order it, but know who and what you're pre-ordering from. Warner Brothers is a publisher never to be trusted. Ever. I would never recommend buying a Warner Brothers game at launch. Wait for the inevitable game of the year. Wait for the inevitable discounts. Wait to see exactly how grotesquely monetized it is. Because Warner Brothers is up there with the Activisions and the Ubisofts. I've said that for a long time as well. Warner Brothers is happy to adopt anything that fucks the customer so long as it makes them a bit of extra scratch. Because ultimately, whether or not you're a die-hard fan of the game, whether or not you've supported the game financially before now, doesn't make a blind bit of fucking difference to the company you've pledged your loyalty to. They don't value loyalty. They don't value your love for the work. They don't value how long you've been a fan of the work. They don't value you. They only value whatever cash is in your wallet. And if you tell them you're a massive die-hard fan of something they publish, all they view there is someone who's easier to extract that cash from. Someone more willing to spend the money. And for most of those people, they know that they don't have to even work very hard to maintain that loyalty, to maintain that fandom. This is something Blizzard has been adequately demonstrating for years. You can piss off your fan base to a nuclear degree, but all that hate will dissipate. All will be forgiven so long as you've got something cool in your pocket to announce. Something that these fans can spend more of their money on. And the harsh reality is a lot of fans don't even care in the first place. I mean, right now there's a petition online begging EA to release more paid DLC for Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's no wonder game publishers don't value fan loyalty. There's a fucking surplus of the stuff. That doesn't make their behaviour okay, of course. I blame the swindler, not the swindled. But that is what these companies do. That is the lesson that's been taught for over a decade. And if you think there is a lesson here about pre-ordering games, if you think there is a lesson about throwing support behind a game at launch, well, you do well to learn from it this time. Especially when it comes to Warner Brothers, because they're only just going to do it again and again and again.